placement, we have, so when, sorry.
Okay.
Word it correctly. Say that we're at our placement, do we also have to be taking the 2 classes as co-requisites at the same time while we're at the place?
Well, you won't be taking them at placement. So placement 3 days a week. It's Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. On Mondays and Tuesdays, you'll have your 4 other courses. So Monday, you'll likely have 2 courses. Tuesday, you'll have 2 courses. And then you'll have your field placement Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So folks, I'm telling you, please, this semester, notice you have 18 hours of class time. You really should be putting in the equivalent of a full-time work week. So 40 hours in total, in terms of your studying, your reading, and you're working on assignments. Next semester, you're going to notice you have 36 hours of class time. So that includes your field placement. Your field placement will be 8 hours a day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And you'll have 2 courses Monday, 2 courses Tuesday. I'm pretty sure that's how they'll end up playing out. So you are going to be extremely busy next semester. So do what you can this semester to make sure, and again, those of you who are really wanting to get a high grade point average and get that gold cord at graduation, really focus in heavily on, these semesters when you have, not as many hours dedicated. You're not allowed to do coursework during field placement, so they are on different days. So thank you for bringing that up. That's really important. So it is going to be a very busy semester next semester for you. Olivia.
Do you know, on the top of your head, if the accelerated students would be the same, 2 classes Monday, 2 classes Tuesday, and then placement 3 days?
I'm pretty sure that that's the way it works out, Olivia. I'll check on that and I'll let you know for sure tomorrow. I don't recall right off the top of my head, just again because we've done changes and we've tried to keep it consistent. I'm pretty sure you have a similar pattern, but I'll bring that to class tomorrow, okay? And let you know for sure. So again, yeah, at minimum, you'd have the placement plus 4 courses. Any other questions? Okay, and you can see here that your second English credit, you're going to have to be successful in achieving your first English credit in order to be successful, or in order to move into your second English credit. And we are going to need to update this because they updated the course code there, so we'll have to add CS050 to that, Linda. And then moving forward to the third semester, again, you're back to 18 hours, and you'll take DS236, and you'll notice here, this is a co-rec. Mainly, most of you will already have your DS127, but this is for our accelerated students, and our accelerated students are concurrently registered in DS127 and Trends and Issues. But those of you in the 2-year program are going to take Trends and Issues in your third semester. You'll take your second behavioral course, which is Behavioral Support Strategies. And you notice you have to have your first behavior course in order to move on to your second behavior course. And so where, again, this gets really kind of tricky for lots of students, and DS234 tends to be one of those courses that is a little bit more challenging for students. We only offer our courses once a year, so if you're not successful in completing DS234 this semester, that means you'll have to take it next fall, which would delay you being able to take DS343 until the following fall. So just really recognizing, we want to be really upfront and really make sure that you guys fully understand the implications of not being successful in a course and how critically important it is for you to, number one, attend your classes, participate in those classes, because that's where you're getting lots of participation marks for being in a class and for participating. Doing your homework, like spending time doing the readings, doing your homework, spending a lot of time and attention on assignments. When we say with reflective learning and reflective assignments, 1 or 2 sentences in terms of reflection is not enough. Not enough at all. I've seen a few conversations that matters come through already, and I haven't really read them, but I can tell they look really, really short, so I am concerned for a couple people. So if you have completed your conversations that matters for DS 127 already, and you think that your answer may not be wholesome enough, please go back in and make some additions to it. So again, really, all of those assignments, lots of your assignments will be worth, 10%, 20% of your total grade. Your participation, again, really, really important. Your participation is, and can be, and Linda, correct me if I'm wrong, it can be a make it or break it for some students. At the end of the year, all the time, we're looking at, how were the students' grades? And, if lots of times it comes down to the student would have not been successful in the course had they not have participated and engaged so much in classes. Linda?
I agree, absolutely. Yeah,
anything else to add there, Linda, about our prereqs, reaching out for help, those kinds of things?
You know what, I was just going to say reaching out for help. I think the only thing that I probably would add to what you just said, is that if you're struggling in any class, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And the earlier the better. So I know there are times where, we're waiting a little bit too long maybe to start our assignments, and then we have questions, and sometimes it's too late. So please make sure you're reviewing the work that you need to have done ahead of time so that you can ask those questions up front. And any time during classes, if there's ever questions or even after class, please make sure you're reaching out.
We really, really want you to be successful. Once you have received a failing total grade for a class, that's not the time to come to us and say, what can I do? What can I do to pass the class? At that point, if it's final grades, it's too late. That's not the time to reach out for help. The time to reach out for help is during the semester when you're feeling challenged with your assignments. Another thing that really kind of comes to mind is lots of times on assignments, if I'm thinking that a student is really struggling, I'll put a note saying, please make an appointment to meet with me so we can have a discussion. And very, very rarely do students ever follow up. And I'm really surprised at this. I'm shocked. I'm saying, please reach out. Let's have a conversation about this. I'd like to offer you some help. And lots of times students don't follow up with that and then are surprised at the end of the year when they're not successful in passing the class. So please remember, if you're not successful in a course and you get your final grade, that's not the time to come and say, what can I do? At that time, after final grades have been submitted, there's nothing that we really can do at that point in time. So it's, again, really important that you're reaching out and you're having conversations with us while you're having difficulty. Okay, so you can see here, again, as I mentioned before, if you aren't successful in one of your first semester courses and you can't move on to placement, and you can't move on to your person-directed course, there are other courses that will be able to kind of fit you into. It's just that your path might take a little bit longer before you graduate. So again, here's another third semester course, social welfare. It's not a DS course, but it is a required course in our program. So it's not an elective. Sometimes people think that this is an elective credit. It is not. It's a required component. Same with PY063, child development. We'll talk a little bit about child development in our DS 127 course this semester, but we won't definitely dig nearly as deep into it as what you will in the future in child development. You also, throughout the course of the program, need to take 2 general elective credits. We now have these are in 3rd and 4th semester, so you will have to take 2 courses. One of the things that I hear students say very, very frequently is that those elective credits fill up really, really quickly. So if there is a course that you want to take as a general elective, make sure for your 3rd and 4th semesters that you register early. Like, get on it really quick, especially if you want to take a particular elective. Some of the electives that I've heard students say have been really, really good and complement the learning that you do in the program. One is an addictions elective. Another one was, Linda, what was that psychology one? The terror?
Psychology of terror. Yes.
Psychology
That's what I want to take.
Someday we will. And we have a couple of accelerated students. Are there any elective credits that you took that you found were really good to our accelerated, as well as any students who have been to the college prior to starting this program? Anybody have any suggestions? Olivia?
I took like a drugs and addiction course.
Okay.
One of them, and that was really cool because like, you learn about drugs, but then you also learn like what it does to your body and like how you get addicted and stuff like that. It was cool.
Was that with Sue Hoffman?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody really likes her. That we've heard time and time again from our students that they love that course. So again, if you're interested in drugs and addiction, again, a beautiful complement to our program. And I've also heard that she's fantastic and everybody loves that course. So anybody else? Meadow.
I'm not sure if they would still offer it because I was in college like 7 years ago. But I took 2 electives. One was abnormal psychology.
Yeah.
I really liked that one. And then there was another one called gender.
That complements our program very, very well.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And then there was another one called Gender, Society, and Change. I like that one. It was like how there's different like female roles and male roles that are portrayed in society and how it's forced, like pink is for girls or, you know, stuff like that. And also like about transsexual and like the gender how like fluid gender is and stuff like that. It was really interesting.
That sounds fantastic. I hope they still offer that. I couldn't see them getting rid of a course like that. That sounds fantastic. And again, another beautiful addition to the curriculum and our content, as well as moving forward in your future career. I saw that Skylar had noted that Sue Hoffman also taught abnormal psychology. Abnormal psychology, I have to say, was my favorite class when I did my undergrad psychology degree. I loved that course. I read that book I don't know how many times. But again, I love mental health. That is my passion. So certainly the abnormal psych was one that spoke to me. We also had a course called The Exceptional Child, which again was really, really good. But that's good. Does anybody else have any other suggestions for electives? Michaela?
I did abnormal psych too. That one was really good. But also I did family, intimacy, and relationships, and it was pretty good. And it's also like a really easy class if you feel like you need like an easier class. I'd take that one because it's not a lot of work. It's like pretty easy.
And that's great, right? Like, so sometimes you have to make those decisions, Michaela. So thank you for that. Like, sometimes depending on where you're at and how much time and attention you have to be able to offer. So again, if I were to offer any words of advice, I'd plan this out carefully. So Michaela, you brought up a great point. So if you need to have an elective credit that may be an easier workload, I would strongly suggest selecting that credit in your fourth semester when you're doing your second field placement, because you're not going to have as much time then to be dedicating towards all of your field placement and your 4 courses. Whereas if you are interested in taking, possibly the addictions or one of the other courses that people have talked about that may have a little bit more workload, take that in your third semester. Because again, you'll have, you can see your third semester, you'll have 18 hours of classes. So plan that out carefully. Think about that. I noticed that Carrie Lee had put up, and Wellness for Life is another course that lots of our students take, and it helps to support the health of self and others, which is again another really good addition for supporting other people, right, and recognizing what we need to live a healthful life. And human sexuality, again, another really good course for learning about sexual health and relationships. We do teach about sexuality and sexuality for people with intellectual disabilities in your DS 129 intervention strategies course. But again, this it sounds like the healthy human sexuality course would be kind of more of a broad-based course. Any other suggestions? Hope everybody's taking notes. Some great suggestions so far. Okay, so, and then moving on to your 4th semester, you're going to see here, that'll be 33 hours. So your field placement 2, which is your school-based field placement, is a 7-hour-a-day field placement, so 1 hour less per day, per week. So that is, again, still Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. You see here you have some more prerequisites and also co-requisites. So unless you already have achieved credit for those co-requisites, you need to be taking those co-requisites at the same time that you take your field placement. And I've already explained how the prerequisites and the co-requisites fit into developing a path for you. The reason we want to review this for you is so that you are really aware of how important it is for you to be passing these the credits that you're taking throughout each and every semester. So the other really salient point here is that field placement, and this is probably really important to everybody. Every year there are, I don't think we've ever had a year yet where somebody hasn't been successful in their field placement and or been encouraged to maybe drop because they weren't going to be successful in field placement. And we'll talk about some of the issues that come up in field placement that cause students not to be successful. But if you have to repeat field placement, because of the course hours attached to field placement, it's actually a full semester tuition. If you have other courses that you need to take with that, then those are included. But if you just have to take field placement, it's actually a full semester's tuition. So again, I cannot express enough how important your field placements are. And again, maintaining professionalism and doing all of the things that we're going to be talking about in this class, and carrying that forward into your field placements. They can get pretty expensive, especially for lots of our international students who may have to remain registered throughout the course, like may have to remain a full-time student. So again, please, please, please do everything that we tell you that you need to do for your field placements. Some of you are going to be kind of surprised at some of the reasons why students aren't successful in field placement. And we talk about them every year, and yet every year they seem to happen. So we're not too sure what to do differently to help students understand this, but we want you to have all of the information right now as you're starting out in the program so that you can make really good decisions about your learning. Any questions about any of the prerequisites, the co-requisites, or anything else that we've talked about? Ariel.
Where can we find a full list of electives that we can take?
That's a good question that I'm sorry, I don't have the answer to. I wonder if the General Arts and Science program might list them. I'm not really too sure. Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can't you find them in, like, don't we have, like, a book at the hub that has them, or, like, online under, like, a special tab? Isn't there, like, a general elective tab that you can click on, I think?
I'm sure there's got to be somewhere on the college website.
I'm sure if they didn't have that, right?
I haven't found it, but maybe somebody else in the class has.
Oh, okay.
Lee.
It's on the college website. If you just type in the search bar to fall 2020 electives, it'll come up as a list of electives.
Perfect. Thank you, Lee. Every time I try to use that search bar, I never get what I'm looking for. Now, mind you, what I'm always looking for is the academic calendar, and it just never comes up right. So I'm not too sure. So I'm glad you've had some success, and maybe it's getting better. Meadow.
I was just wondering for our placements, do you know roughly like what time they will be at, or is it kind of like shift work where it'll change every day? Or is it like a 9 to 5, or how does that work?
Great question. It's you need to follow the schedule of your mentor, and that'll look different for absolutely everybody depending on where your placement is. Some of them are more daytime. We don't allow you to complete any placement hours as an overnight shift. You're not really learning a whole lot in an overnight shift. So your hours need to be days and evenings. The majority, I'd say probably most students do the majority daytime hours, but there are others that the agency, their mentors ask them to do some of the evening shifts. Again, there's different learning that happens on different shifts. Those of you who have worked in long-term care can certainly attest to that. And I can tell you my own experience working in long-term care. I worked straight days for the longest time, and I knew all of the people that I supported with. I knew all of their routines. I knew everything that happened. And then something changed with the scheduling, and I had to start doing some afternoon shifts or evening shifts. And the people that I supported were all different. They were the same people that I had previously supported during the day, but evening was an entirely different, a different list of responsibilities. The people were different in the afternoon and evenings. So again, there's lots of different things that happen in the evening shift. Again, and same thing in our developmental services sector. People's routines are different. Sometimes day shifts, there's not a whole lot of time to go out in the community. People are getting people up and bathed and ready for the day and feeding 2 meals. And so that really kind of encompasses a whole large part of the day. Whereas an afternoon shift tends to be, oftentimes a little bit more recreation-based. Not all the time. But there are certainly there are differences in terms of how you provide support across different time frames. So That's going to change. That'll be different for each and every one of you, depending on where you're placed. And not just the agency or organization, it'll even be the home or the people that you're supporting will dictate kind of what your schedule will be. Any other questions about that? We are going to talk more about placement and your portfolio and all of those things in a few minutes here. I know you guys covered the social, the DSW Social Networking Directive. And I believe Linda and I spoke about this previously. Again, really important that you're representing yourself as well as your program in the best possible light. We all want to see developmental service workers receive increase in pay. We want to see professionalism of the professionalization of people with a developmental services worker diploma. And so that really all counts on you guys to be out there projecting a positive social image. And, you know, kind of when I speak to that, I think, you know, what if each and every one of you went on Google right now and looked up Linda or myself and went and saw, you know, a whole bunch of party pictures of us and things like that. What might you be thinking in terms of who's teaching you? It would probably alter the way that you view your education or how much credit you give to your education or how well you believe you're being educated. And the same thing happens, and I talked about this previously, about when, you know, as a supervisor, as somebody who was looking for employees, I certainly would do a search of people's names to see what came up. The other thing that comes up here in this area is there have been several times in the past where a member of the community has come forward to myself as a coordinator and or previous and or other coordinators to report something that they've seen on social media by one of our students. And so again, please don't put yourself in that position. Please again, try to conduct yourself respectfully and responsibly in terms of how you're representing your profession. Any questions about any of that? Does everybody understand how important social media is?
Yeah.
Ariel, thank you, Ariel.
Sorry, my microphone is cutting out.
Dinus, I see your microphone came on as well. So you understand the importance of social media. I mean, I think that lots of us are recognizing that the importance of that. Again, some people believe that, you know, you can turn on your privacy and that's going to protect you. It may to some degree, but again, if you've got friends on other accounts, friends can have friends, you wouldn't believe the things that I've seen, and I'm not a friend of the person, right? And so how people can take things from your social media profile and share them with other people without your consent and all of those things. So again, just please, please, please be careful. I've even had my daughter come to me and say, "Did you hear this?" And it's about somebody that, you know, I wouldn't be friends with on Facebook or where on another social media platform. I saw somebody had their hand up, but I missed it. Who was it? Madison, you're agreeing. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I did see, Julie, sorry to interrupt, I did see that Sarah had just popped up with a couple of comments. I don't think her hand came up, but she typed in the chat. something about having two separate accounts. And I think, Sarah, I see where you're going with that, but I think the whole point is if your name is on the account, it doesn't matter who your intended audience is. I think what Julie's trying to say is that audience is still going to be that same group of people. So whether you're intending what you're putting on social media to be directed to friends and family and another one directed towards school, that doesn't really matter, because once your name is out there and attached to those things, again, like Julie said, regardless of whether or not, say for example, you and I are friends on social media, if I'm friends with somebody that you're friends with, that stuff will come to me, right? So I think the point is really keeping your social media clean regardless of who your intended audience is.
Absolutely, and so thank you for that, Linda. Thank you for that, Linda. And Sarah, great question. I've also, again, encountered situations where the person didn't use their name, or they used some other kind of a name to represent themselves, but they were identifiable by the pictures that they posted. So just changing your name isn't enough either, because the pictures that you post are identifiable. So again, if you've got pictures you want to share with a friend or whatever, just don't put them on social media. Again, really keep yourself clean. Once somebody sees a tarnished image of you, again, always remember first impressions. Once you tarnish your image, it's really, really, really hard for people to see anything other than that. Now, I'd like to believe that we all live in a very forgiving world, and I like to encourage people to be forgiving and kind and all of those things. But again, oftentimes it's really difficult once somebody has seen something that they'd rather not see. You can't unsee it. So again, just really, really pay attention to the things that you're posting, and the professional image that you'd like to project. Just be aware of that all the time. Before you hit that share button, just think, would my boss approve of this, right? Just have those thoughts in mind. If your boss wouldn't approve, maybe that's not something that you want to be sharing with the public. So those are just some cautions, some, tips and tricks to help you, again, make sure that your profile, your social media profile, and who you are as a potential applicant for positions remains a positive one for you. All right. Any other questions? Okay, we are going to take a 10-minute break here. Come on back at 9:40, and we're going to start talking about, actually, before we jump into field placement requirements, we're going to talk about a few other housekeeping kind of items. So see you back at 10:40.
Are we going to find out in class, how to get services for people? An example is my brother's getting a tomato chair and a stander. Are we gonna find out ways how to get those for students or people we're supporting?
So those will be certainly referrals that are made, and within this, that typically happens within the school system. But yeah, we will talk about services and how you access services and what those services might look like for sure.
Okay.
Okay, folks, there's a few of you who have not yet taken our poll. If that applies to you, please make sure you answer. I'm going to give you about another 30 seconds, and then I'll be shutting the poll off, assuming you're not here.
Yeah.
6 of you still outstanding for the poll. If you haven't already made your selection, please make it now. want to tell me why they think that you may be more likely to be legally executed than killed by lightning? Anybody know? I'm waiting. No.
I said that it was more likely to be killed by lightning just because there's more lightning around here than execution.
For sure, I understand your logic. Oceana.
I said the same thing, but only because I just watched a Facebook video of people getting hit by lightning, like a little compilation. So I have it on my head right now. So
again, that's really good. That's good that you brought that up, because that again speaks to, how likely we are to believe things when they're fresh in our memory, right? Excellent. Sibby.
Yeah, I took the other one because we'll be getting time before we die, because on lightning will be killed at the moment, right? We'll be getting some time when it is in the case of legal execution, right?
Okay, so you picked the other. So I'm going to tell you guys what the correct answer is here. And again, this speaks to, and some of you may have answered within the context of Canada, which would probably change the results somewhat, but apparently you are more likely to be legally executed than you are killed by lightning. So according to the National Safety Council, your lifetime odds of dying from legal execution, so lethal injection or electric chair, are 1 in 119,000, which is a lot greater than what I actually thought it would be. Then when it comes to being struck by lightning, the odds jump to 1 in 161,000. So isn't that just ludicrous? Like, I couldn't even believe that. And I think Skylar had said something that she knew a few people who had been struck by lightning but never died. So again, great distinction there, Skylar. I also know of at least one, and I think maybe two people who had been struck by lightning. One of them had been struck more than one time. So yeah, just some of that useless information that you don't really need to know, but watch your back, because apparently lethal execution is more common than certainly dying by lightning. Okay, so as I said, we kind of wanted to cover a few other things here, just important reminders and or important information to help you have a most successful semester as well as a career. And I know we talked about this before. We talked about, always using your college email account when communicating with faculty around your grades. Even when communicating with other students, it's always a good practice to get into, especially about group projects and whatnot. I believe most of you have been utilizing your college email account, so that's fantastic. We also, in our program, ask that you please check your email at least every 24 hours. Again, that's really important because it's the way that we have to be able to communicate with you. We know that there are certainly going to be times when it may be a little bit longer before you can get to email and whatnot, but we really do want you checking and responding to your email at least once a day. Just get in the habit. It's a really good practice to be checking and responding to email on a regular basis. The other thing that speaks to that is just our experience with you guys as students. And so we're going to talk about references in a little bit. But if we're sending you emails and you're never responding, then later on when you're going to apply for a job and you want to have a reference, it's going to be really difficult for us to be like, oh yeah, we're not going to be able to say when providing the reference that you're really responsive. So again, really be thinking about all of these things and how you are portraying yourself as a professional. Another thing that I spoke to this a little bit in the beginning, is the importance of really attending in class, paying attention, and taking notes. It's the amount of emails that we get is really kind of over the top sometimes, and there are things that students email us about that can certainly wait until their next class. So again, before you jump on email to ask a question about something, think, have I reviewed all of the information that's been given to me? So if it's something your announcements from your courses to make sure that we haven't actually sent out information that would provide the direction that you're looking for. So again, we're happy to engage via email, but we really want to be cognizant of how much email is coming in so that we can really work on getting your assignments marked, graded, and returned to you in the quickest amount of time. So again, another good email rule, certainly for when you're on placement, as well as when you're out there in the work world. If you don't want to be emailing your boss 5 times a day, you certainly want to look at, okay, so what information do I need to know now, and what can wait until our next team meeting, kind of thing. So if you have a question that can wait until the next class, make a note of it and ask in your next class. If it can wait, if it can't wait, then certainly send the email. And we'll do our very best to respond within 24 hours as well. So we want, to have a mutual understanding and respect between faculty and students in our program, that we're all going to work really hard on having some really positive communication. Oh, another thing that keeps coming up is the subject line of your email. So make sure before you're sending an email that your subject line actually says something about what you're emailing about. So let me see if I can share. One second here. Go back here. Oh, I don't know if I can bring that up for you though. There we go. Just give me 1 second. Okay, so what you're going to see here is all of the emails that I have here. Subject line right here. So here you're going to put who it's to, CC if somebody else needs to know, and subject line. So this is where you're going to type what the email is about. Okay, so if you're emailing about, let's say, for example, your portfolio assignment that's due in this class, your subject line should read something like DS 115 Assignment 2 Portfolio. Something that really tells us what it is that you're emailing about. If it's about a test, it might be DS 127 if it's for your developmental disabilities course. test number 1. Okay? So make sure that you are filling out that subject line. It really helps us to be able to, again, look for things that we can address quickly, as opposed to things that need to kind of wait a little bit. So your subject line is important. The other thing that students have been doing is when I send in an announcement through Blackboard, they'll respond to the email that they get from that announcement. But the announcement will say something like DS 115 field placement prerequisite portfolio, and that's what comes up in the subject. But then the student is actually emailing me about another course entirely, and without telling me what it is that what course you're emailing me about, or what assignment, or any of those things, it leaves the person that's receiving the email kind of playing a bit of a guessing game. And so, again, make sure your subject, you change, if you're going to use that same email, change that subject line to be specific about what it is that you're emailing about. Linda, did you have anything to add there about any of that?
I don't think so. Not about specifically about the email or the subject line. Just to say that sometimes, at least in my experience, I actually don't receive those emails when people respond to the Blackboard posting sometimes. Sometimes there's a little bit of a glitch, so just be aware of that. Most of the time, I didn't actually receive students' responses when they did that. So just start a new email.
Yeah, and that's great, Linda, because again, I hadn't in the past either. Students had said, they responded to an announcement email, and I hadn't gotten them either, but I'm finding that this semester I seem to be getting them now. So I don't know if something's changed, or I don't know if I'm getting all of them, right? So again, just really being cognizant, start a new email. That's the best way to make sure that you get through to us. Again, we do try our very best to make sure that we're responding within 24 hours. If you haven't heard back, in a 30-hour time frame or 24 hours, if it's during the work week, certainly follow up, because there's chances are we may not have received your email. So again, just really checking in and thinking about being really specific in your emails. Another thing that's really important is email is a professional form of communication. Email is not the same as texting. And so again, we're preparing you for your future career and work. And so the expectations regarding email are that you conduct yourself in a professional manner. And that includes a salutation. So when you're starting an email, first again, you're going to put, your name or who it's going to. And a CC would be like a carbon copy. So if there's somebody else that should know what it is that you're referring to, or, you want them included in on that email, you put them in the CC line. Your subject line, again, we're going to make sure that's really clear. And then in the body of your email. So the body is below, and that's where you're going to put, hello, Linda. Hi, Linda. Good morning, Linda. Something, again, that, is a greeting of sorts. Not, hey, Linda. Because what does hey, Linda kind of communicate? Or just Linda? Tell me, what does that communicate?
I don't know about the hey Linda, but when it's just Linda, it sounds like more demanding.
Right. Great point, Ariel. So it does. It sounds pretty cold, aloof, and demanding, right? Linda. Right? And the way that you read it, and again, us as senders of information, we actually set the tone for how that communication is going to be received. Communication is the responsibility of the sender. So it's really important that when we're sending communication, it's, we're communicating the way that we intend to communicate. So Linda would kind of sound pretty straight, straight to the point and maybe demanding. Hey, Linda, implies that you've got a non-professional relationship. You might say, hey, to a friend, right? I could say, hey, Linda, she's my friend. Again, I never address Linda like that in a professional communication at work. I always start with, hello, Linda. Hi, Linda. Good morning, right? So again, recognizing that salutation is really important to how you're communicating the rest of the body of your email. Again, then you're going to move on to providing a clear description of what you're asking. So again, remember, it might be really clear to you what it is that you're working on and what you want to know. But when you send the email, oftentimes students forget to put the details in, and then we receive the email and we have no idea what it is that you're actually asking. So make sure, again, you're really clear. I was working on DS 127 Assignment 1, completing the 4 seasons of reconciliation training, and I completed it, but I haven't received my certificate yet. Now, again, so as I said earlier, if that's the case, again, before you send that email, go back and have a look at the assignment instructions to make sure that there isn't something on those assignment instructions that provides the answer that you're looking for. And if you were to do that in this particular case, you would see that there's actually a note in bold on your assignment instructions that says that the company sends them. It doesn't happen right away, and it may take a day up to a week and possibly even longer before you receive that certificate of completion. So again, really making sure you're doing your due diligence. This is about your professionalism. So again, remember that you're going back and checking and that you're really clear on what it is that you're asking. The other thing that's important, as I said, is that emails are not text messages. So there is an expectation that you're using full sentences with capital letters, proper grammar, and punctuation. That means you need to use periods. I have received emails from students that are a paragraph long and there isn't a period in sight. It makes it really difficult to read, and you just about die because a period means that's a time to take a breath. So again, please make sure that the communications that you're sending are professional, so that you are using grammar and punctuation. Don't send it like you would a text. Text messages are a different form of communication. We always want to remember that we're checking spelling and grammar. So again, this is about remembering professionalism. Proofread your email before you send it off. So have a good read through it. Make sure that you've communicated everything that you need to. And then sign off. So thank you, sincerely, regards, some other kind of sign off, and then your name. Within our program, it's not so important that you put your student number or even your last name. Our student numbers are, well, I wouldn't say they're low enough, but we do know who you are, so you don't need to be including your student number in your email communications with us. Anything to add there, Linda?
No, I think you covered all of it. Sure.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask Linda to certainly speak up here with online learning environment and etiquette, and so we're all kind of learning to go through this whole online learning piece together. We've come across a few things that we certainly recognize we need to all pay attention to. And so one of the things that we're asking is that during attendance, and so at the beginning of class, please make sure you turn your camera on. Don't wait for us to call your name before you turn your camera on. Turn it on in advance so that it's ready and it's loaded, and all you have to do is turn on your mic. Once we call your name, turn on your mic, say hello, and then you can turn off your camera. Okay, we really need to be seeing you and connecting with you. Again, it's really important those cameras are working. You're taking an online course, which means there is an expectation that you do have a working camera. Again, because we don't want you to have to be on camera all the time, and we are, giving that grace, we do want you to have a profile picture uploaded to your profile so that we aren't seeing those gray boxes. So again, for those of you who haven't uploaded a profile picture yet, please make sure you do so. When you are talking, it's probably if we can see you. Sorry, Linda, I'll jump to you in a sec.
You're about to say what I'm going to say anyway, I think.
Okay, you go ahead then, and we'll see.
I was just going to say that more so than attendance, it's the questions or any conversations that you're having, any comments that you're making during class. Please put your cameras on. It's really difficult to keep track of it in the chat, and it's just not the same in terms of really, always understanding where you're coming from in your comment or understanding your question. It's so much better when we can see you and hear you.
Yeah. And so we've decided this as a program, and other teachers may be doing different things. Linda and I both recognize we struggled in some of our own professional development opportunities where people were just spending time in the chat. And so it divides your attention, and then there's so much distractibility, it's really hard to learn. So for both Linda and I anyway, we prefer that if you please put your hand up. And most of you are doing that. Turn on your camera and your speaker, and we can actually have a conversation. This is, again, going to be really important to some of the supports that some of you are going to be providing for people with disabilities. You can't just not turn on your camera when you're trying to support somebody. So, again, you need to get comfortable with turning on that camera so that you can provide the supports that you need. Our field is about, we're in human services, so we have to be connecting as humans. We can't be just talking to blank screens all the time. That's not what our profession is about. Our whole profession is really about relationship. And you can't form relationship without making connections. So that connection piece is really important. Again, another reminder, if you have to leave your computer for a moment during the class, change your status to away so that we know that you aren't there and don't waste time waiting for you to respond. So again, already today I'm calling out, and I'm kind of not getting any responses. So if you are stepping away from the computer, please go down to at the bottom of each of your screens, you have a little person. Click on that little person, and right below your name, there will be a thing that says away. Just click on the away so that we know that you're not there and don't waste time. Any questions about any of that so far? Now today we're doing lots of talking at you. I hope everybody's paying attention because we are reviewing these. We are going to post these, and then we hope that, again, that you're going to be following these. So again, we want you to pay attention, participate, and remain engaged. So I know it's really difficult sometimes to sit and listen to somebody, talk for a couple hours on the computer, but this is how we're going to help to prepare you for your future field placements and your future career. Without doing the learning that we're doing in class, without participating in the learning that we're providing for you, it's going to be more challenging for you to engage and be successful in your future placements. And again, like I said earlier, we have examples of this every single year where we've talked time and time again about, that you shouldn't sleep while you're on placement. You can't sleep while you're on placement. It's not allowed to sleep while you're on placement. Yet almost every single year, a student gets fired from placement for sleeping while on placement. So We tell you, and again, it's going to be really important that you're paying attention and that you're participating so that you understand this information. As I've already said, take notes. It's really important during classes that you take notes. Notes are really important for your learning. It also helps you to encode what it is that you've been hearing. So when you write it, you encode it, and it gets stored in a place in your brain. And then when you go to sleep at night, you actually solidify and make memories out of the things that you learned. So notes are really important for your ability to remember what you've learned. Again, remember that in-class work is only assigned in class. You need to be paying attention to the instructions provided. So you can't email after class and say, well, I wasn't listening, or, those kinds of things. What can I do to make up the in-class work? In-class work can't be made up. You're responsible for being in class and participating and doing the work that you need to do while you're in class. Make sure you, again, take notes. Linda.
Sorry, I just didn't want to jump in there and interrupt you. Just going back to your comment about taking notes. Absolutely, really important in terms of your learning, but also a really good strategy if you are finding it hard to sort of stay with us when we're talking. I know it's sometimes tough to sit and listen to, your computer. So sometimes taking notes, for me, I know it's a way to kind of keep me, focused on what I'm listening to, right? So just another little strategy you might want to try, even if you're not a believer in how important it is for your learning. It is, but if you don't believe us for that, at least use it for, keeping on track.
Absolutely, and we have had students who have certainly spoken to us in the past and said, they never used to take notes, but they started to, and they couldn't believe the difference in how much they were able to learn. In fact, in your DS 129 course, Intervention Strategies, I started to have students, I don't post the PowerPoints, and I may or may not do that again this year, and students are responsible for taking notes of the content that we cover, and students really freak out about this at first. They get really, really nervous, really, really worried that they're not going to have access to the PowerPoints, but at the end, I always have a ton of students come forward and say, wow, I can't believe how much that worked. And again, remember, in terms of studying, they don't really have anything to study from, but they've actually remembered the content because they paid attention during class, wrote notes, and can complete their tests because you've learned it. Skylar, thank you for that. Skylar certainly said that it was a love-hate relationship with that. So Skylar has taken my DS 129 class. And yeah, every year I know students hate me with a passion when I say that that's exactly what we're going to be doing. And people really struggle with that, but it does help your learning. It really, really does. And I have the evidence of the tests to tell you that it really does help your learning. What I have done in the past is the notes that were taken, students were allowed to, they were handwritten notes, and they were allowed to bring those, I gave them back for the tests, and they were allowed to have them for the tests. They're notes that they wrote in class, and that's the only notes they were allowed to have, and the majority of students, because they had written the notes, didn't even need to use the notes to complete their test. So that really speaks to the power of taking notes. Again, we're asking you to refrain from texting in the chat box during the lesson unless you're having technical difficulties, because it's really hard to monitor both. When you have a question, raise your hand. And did I mention that it's important to take notes? I really can't say that enough. Any questions? Amy?
I was just going to make a comment about taking notes. When I went in university in 2000, I actually went. It was the beginning of PowerPoint for teachers, so a lot of them didn't even have PowerPoint. And it was a lot of note taking, but then you kind of learn tricks of short form and whatever, but it definitely, coming now with PowerPoint, I find it more difficult to follow along with the PowerPoint. I don't even look at the slides, I write as they're talking.
And those are, again, great skills to have. Again, you know what? You guys are going to be in a position where you're going to be supporting people to doctor's appointments. You're going to be supporting people out there that aren't going to be giving you a copy of their notes. You need to be taking the notes. So again, really, really good practice for everything that you're doing. I want to ask you guys, is there anything else here that we may have missed under netiquette that you think we should include in terms of our online classroom learning environment? So we've either put you all to sleep, which I hope not, because that was point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Point number 5 was pay attention, participate, and remain engaged. Or we've done a really good job of kind of covering what we need to do in terms of netiquette. Another really important thing is that when we were doing group work, that in groups we're all engaged, so that you're engaging with your group when we put you in breakout groups and whatnot. You know, just a point for you guys to know, we can see when your microphones are turning on and not, and so you're in a group and we can see, well, this group is supposed to be doing group work and there's no microphones on, so they can't be talking. So what's going on? So again, making sure you're engaged when we're giving you those opportunities to interact with one another as well. Ariel.
For the netiquette, would it be good to add that, like, when you have your camera on, that you're in a well-lit space, so that you can actually see?
Yeah, lighting's important, right? Yeah, perfect. I will add that to this list afterwards. Anybody else? Now again, we recognize that having cameras on for students all the time is not something that can always happen. Please make plans in advance for your tests. We may be moving to you needing to have the camera and your microphone on during your test. So please make sure that you have things up and running because you may need that in the future. And that you have enough times to complete your tests where you're not going to be distracted. Alina.
Hi.
Hello.
I just had a question about the in-class assignment that you discussed. So basically when we have, like, there are a couple of times when we may have the connectivity issues because of the online learning thing and we may miss it. So in such scenario, what are we supposed to do then?
So then that's going to be really important that you communicate with us. We can see, we get reports, and we can see when students are having problems with connectivity. So don't worry too much. We can go into our report and we can see, yep, Alina was having a difficult time. You know, she kept getting kicked out, had to reconnect 4 times, 5 times. So again, don't worry too much about that, but please do let us know if we were doing a group exercise and you were having problems with connection, okay?
Okay,
so
thank
that's
you.
Important. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, assignment tips. So again, this is one thing. Again, read your assignments as soon as they're assigned. Make sure you read through them, take note of any questions that you might have, and then bring them forward to the next class so that we can discuss them. If you have a question about an assignment, chances are there are other people in your class that have the same question about the assignment. And so it's much better if we can talk about it as a group and certainly address it and explain and do those things. Sometimes it's really hard to explain things over email. So we really want you to read those assignments as soon as they're posted. Bring your questions forward to the next class. Unless it's something that's due before the next class, then certainly reach out. Make sure you schedule time to work on your assignments. Think about, the assignments that you have coming up and getting them done. if I could give anybody any word of solicited advice, it would be, as soon as you get your assignments, work on them, get them done. Get them out of the way, because once midterms and finals come, there's a lot going on, and you want to get as many of your assignments out of the way as you can before we hit midterms. Meadow.
I don't know if it's with the netiquette or the assignment, but for me personally, I think it would be helpful if in the announcements when you guys are giving us assignments, if you say where it is on Blackboard, because I feel like I'm searching in like a whole bunch of different tabs for everything. Like each class is different, so I think it would just be a little bit helpful if you said like, okay, your assignment 1 is posted, it's in the discussion board, or it's in the assessment.
So your assignments, so in class work, those things are discussion boards. Assignments are always under the assessment tab. Okay? So again, any assignments that are attached to your course outline in terms of assessment are under the assessment tab on your Blackboard. That should be consistent across our program. Linda, is that where you're putting yours as well?
Yes, always.
Okay. Yeah. So at least you know between Linda and myself that your assessments are always marked or posted in the assessment tab. Otherwise, we have, again, our discussion board stuff, but that's stuff that we've typically started in class, and it's in class work. But thank you for that, Meadow. Again, we're not always going to be giving you guys reminders about your assignments and whatnot. Once they're posted, we've talked about it in class, we've reviewed it in class. It's up to students to, again, be paying attention in class when we're talking about them. You have your list of important dates, and you should have started a calendar to let you know when you've got things due and be planning to be completing those as you go through. For the most part, I'll put discussion board posting, those kinds of things. We'll try to, again, expand a little bit when we do make those postings, but again, remember, it's your responsibility as students to be familiarizing yourselves with your Blackboards. So spend some time kind of moving through. I recognize, especially, this is going to become, once you have elective credits, it's a little bit, we don't have as much control over where people are posting things, but hopefully as faculty, we're kind of doing the same thing. And if that's not the case, I certainly will have a conversation with Cindy and Charlene about kind of moving some things around so that we can make it a little bit more consistent for you guys. I know that all of these platforms are brand new to you, and it can be a little bit overwhelming trying to figure out where things go. So we'll all try to get better at that. So again, make sure that you are doing your assignments in APA format. This is 12-point font unless otherwise specified. So unless we tell you to do something different, make sure that you're using 12-point font. I can tell you that I recognize when students, and it doesn't look good on the student when a student hands in an assignment in 18 or 20-point font, thinking that they're going to fool me that their assignment is 10 pages long. It doesn't fool me. What it says is you want your assignment to look like it's longer than what it is. So again, make sure 12-point font, APA format. You're going to be learning APA format in your English class, so don't worry too much right now. As long as you're putting together sentences and paragraphs and citing work that you need to cite, then we're happy with that for now. Make sure, again, you read your instructions carefully. So, and again, this means reading questions carefully. So I've already noticed and didn't read through to comprehend necessarily, but I did notice somebody has submitted a Conversations That Matters posting for DS127, and they didn't answer all the questions, the reflection questions from Conversations That Matters. They answered the first one, but not the second one. And so, again, depending on, that would only be half marks. And half marks being, That's if you got the first question, you did really, really, really well and got 100% on the first question. Then if you didn't answer the second question, then we can't give you any marks for that. So make sure you're reading carefully. Make sure, and again, the last thing that we want to be marking is something you've thrown together at the last minute. It's a waste of our time, and it's a waste of your time, quite frankly. It's not conducive to your learning. So make sure you're reading carefully. Read those questions. Read and make sure you understand, because that's how you're going to be marked. Every question we put on an assignment is really designed so that we can assess your learning. And that assessment piece we do by rubric. So it doesn't matter if you've answered every question. Have you answered what you need to be answering? Because that's how we mark you. So again, really, really read carefully. Make sure you're following the directions and the instructions. Linda, do you have anything to add there?
No, I don't think so, Julie.
We typically get assignments where we're like, it's really unfortunate that somebody handed in an assignment and hasn't completed it, and then they don't pass that assignment. And remember, if you're rushing to get your assignments in, and it's worth 20% of your total grade, and you don't do well on an assignment, that means you need to do much better on your tests. And we've got, our courses are kind of balanced out so that we recognize that some people are really good at tests and some people are really good at assignments. But oftentimes students kind of do better in one area or the other. So really thinking about, how can you get the most marks possible? And certainly assignments give you that opportunity to get the highest marks possible there, so that the weight of your tests isn't so great. Remembering that plagiarism is a serious academic offense. We don't want you copying or pasting any information from the internet or anywhere else. Remember to cite your sources, even if you've changed the words around. And so, Linda, do you want to speak a little bit to some of the challenges that we encounter with translation and whatnot?
Sure. So I think there are times when students try to change what it is that they're putting in their assignment by Googling other words that they could use to replace the words that the author has used. That's still plagiarism, and not only that, but it makes it really, really tough to understand sometimes. So whether you're changing those words in Google Translate, so you're changing, in terms of language, or you're just changing the actual words using thesaurus, it sometimes changes the structure of the sentence, and it changes the meaning of the sentence. So not only is it still plagiarism, it's also sometimes makes your whole assignment really oh my goodness, I don't even know, or understand what the student's trying to say. So please remember that it's not always this word is another word for this word, so it's going to work in this sentence. It doesn't always work that way.
And it changes the context, right? It changes the context of what it is that you're trying to say. And so then we can't even understand what it is that's written anymore. So again, read something and then write it out in your own words. Don't copy and paste anything and try to change words, because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. So read it, write it in your own words. Most of our assignments are reflective in nature, meaning that we just want to hear what you've learned. We want to hear from your perspective. We like to have lots of I statements. So I learned this. When I participated in this, this is what happened. This is what I saw. And so we want this is what I think, right? So we want more of those I reflective type statements. Then we want you to regurgitate what it is that you've already read, or what we've already read and assigned to you. Any questions about any of that? Okay, and I can't see this enough. We're looking for more than one word or one sentence answers. So, again, some of the things that I've seen handed in to date have been really light on the amount of detail that's being provided. I really, really want you guys to think about this. Remember that you're being marked on these things, and it's important that you're expressing yourself wholly and fully, which means providing more than a one word or one sentence answer. So make sure you're reading those questions and you're really thinking about what it is that's being asked of you. So reflect, think about what you're being asked, dig deep. So really ponder it. The assignments that we give you, again, because they're reflective in nature, aren't meant to for you to read the question and just spit something out. What we want you to do is to read the question and really think about it. Think about the experiences you've had across your life. Think about the things that you've witnessed and observed. Try to really integrate it into your past experiences and observations. Again, we want full sentences with capital letters, proper grammar, and punctuation. You'll notice that on many of your rubrics, you get up to 5 up to 10 points just for your professional presentation. So that means using spelling grammar check in Word, correcting spelling and grammar errors, making sure that you've used punctuation. So just doing those kinds of things for your assignment can get you 5 marks on a 40 or 50 mark assignment or a 25 mark assignment. That's pretty significant. And students can also fail an assignment because they don't put their time and attention into these and into making sure that your assignment is professionally presented. So I think every single one of your assignments across our curriculum has a place on the rubric for your professional presentation. That means your spelling, grammar, and correcting errors. Proofread, proofread, proofread. Don't let us be your proofreaders. We're the ones grading your assignments. It's important that you have somebody proofread your work before you submit it and to give you some suggestions and make the changes that they suggest. I know myself, when writing, you can write something and you can read it and you're writing it and you're reading it and reading it and reading it, so you miss things. Your brain starts to fill in gaps that somebody who's reading it for the first time won't have the knowledge of. So again, have somebody proofread and ask if they understand what you're writing before you hand it in, because then you'll actually improve your grades. You'll improve your marks. We want to see all of you achieving excellent scores. We'd like to see everybody have a super high grade point average at the end of our program. Another thing that students typically struggle with, and this is, certainly a point of caution for lots of students in their first semester, follow the rubric. So when you get an assignment, you're going to be reading the assignment instructions, and in the assignment instructions, there's a rubric. Make sure once you complete your assignment, go through the rubric and make sure you've included everything that's on that rubric in your assignment. Because it doesn't matter how well your assignment is written, if it doesn't meet the objectives of the rubric, you're not going to pass. So make sure you look at those rubrics. That's how we mark. We read your assignment, we go through the rubric, and we assign marks based on the rubric. Follow the rubric. Look at it, read your assignment, make sure you've hit every domain on that rubric, because that's how you'll be graded. Another point of caution, and I learned this the hard way when I was working on my master's. I had worked really, 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 really hard on some research that I was doing, and I was saving my assignments quite frequently. I'd save it as I was working on it, and unfortunately my computer died. my computer hard drive just went kaput on me, and there was no retrieving my document. I needed to start over. Okay? And once you've, spent 40 hours or more doing something, having to start over really, really, really is quite upsetting. So my word of advice is email yourself a copy of the assignment that you're working on every time you work on it, so that if something like that happens to you and your computer hard drive fails, you can go into your email and pull up your last copy of your assignment. So again, I typically do this with everything I work on now. Everything I work on is emailed to myself, so that if something does happen to the computer, I can access a copy of it. And you might not have to do as much reworking of the assignment as if you had not emailed yourself a copy. Always submit your assignments by the beginning of class on the day that they're due. Make sure that you attach a copy of the rubric to your assignment, and this goes for all of your assignments throughout our program. If you don't attach a copy of the rubric to your assignment, not only will you not get the feedback that you need to have in order to improve for future assignments, you'll lose 2 marks for not including the rubric. Meadow?
So when we attach the rubric, so we have our paper, and then you have the reference list, and then the rubric is on a separate page?
Correct.
Okay.
The rubric will be your last page, okay? So yeah, put that rubric in there, and then that's how we mark, right? So you've got the rubric there, we'll go through, mark it, we'll provide comments, and then you'll know whereabouts within your assignment you needed to or where you need to work on for your next assignment. Ramandeep.
For that rubric that you put for us, so we can copy that rubric or paste in that last page on our assignment.
Thank you, Ramandeep. So I keep telling you, don't copy and paste. But yes, copy and paste the rubric.
Yeah, that's right, because that's our option.
Thank you, Ramandeep. Yes, your rubric, just copy it from the assignment, paste it onto the last page. Copy it from the assignment instructions, copy it onto the last page of your assignment. That way, when you get your feedback, you're going to see that, it was professional presentation. I really needed to do a spell and grammar check before I handed in my assignment. I needed to complete that. I lost 5 marks there because I didn't do that. So that gives you some important information about how your assignment was graded. Another important thing here, grading. So every year, students will come to us, and some students will come and they're not happy with their mark, and they say, well, why did I lose so many points? And so it's important to remember, you don't lose points on an assignment. When you submit an assignment, you actually start with a grade of 0, not a grade of 100. What you've submitted is not a grade of 100 to begin with. So you start with a grade of 0, and through the work on your assignment, you provide evidence for what we've asked you to provide, following the instructions and the rubric, and the strength of the evidence and the attention to detail. So again, following those rubrics, spelling, grammar, punctuation, referencing, etc., determines the grade that you receive. So everybody starts at a 0 when they submit their assignment, and then we read the assignment, we go through the rubric, and we assign you points based on the strength of evidence and the attention to detail that you've provided within your assignment. So it's up to you. The grades that you receive are up to you. It is completely 100% up to you. So if you do everything we're asking you to do, you certainly will do well on your assignments. If you're you're not paying attention to that rubric, to the assignment instructions, and or you're providing us with, simple single sentence answers that aren't really giving us any idea of what you're thinking about things, how you're feeling about things, your thoughts on particular things, then you might end up with some mediocre grades. So again, it's really up to you. The time and attention you spend on your assignments will determine the grade that you receive. Okay, I think we're going to come back to reference etiquette next week, because I think that's something that we can hold off on for now. Let's take a 5-minute break here, come back at 10:45, and then we're going to talk about some placement-related information, some preparation for your portfolio. So 10:45, come on back, and we'll talk portfolio.